Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. Lee Brecheen here. I just hope everybody's having a great week under the circumstances here. I know everybody's getting a little cabin fever in their houses. And, I've watched too many movies. Jace, I think I'm movied out. I'm watching movies from the 40s. I'm running out of movies to watch. We're going to have a great show today. We're not going to be a long show. It's going to be a drive time show, basically, 20, 25-minute show. Great topics, though. Our first topic's going to be about college football. I don't think a lot of people are hitting on this point. It's about coming back as a football team in shape for fall practice. Since there's no spring practice, spring's always a continuation of not only learning but staying in shape. And it keeps your linemen in shape. You know, these guys that are 295, 350, 320, it keeps them there because they're already big guys. And the biggest fear, if I'm an Ed Orgeron at LSU or I'm a Coach Herman at Texas, and you have you got the LSU-Texas game in the first 2 weeks of the season in Tiger Stadium, you're going to get your guys back, right? Let's just guess. Let's just say everything goes as planned, the world goes back to normal. Let's say May, late May, right? That the team gets to go back to the field, our country's back to normal. I'm just saying I'm praying for that. If that's the case, you're basically behind about a month. So that means all of May, you got to get your team in shape. They're not used to that because usually before May, they're already training at the they call the Ponderosa at LSU, and they're already training about a month and a half. Even though they're not being, quote, coached by NCAA guidelines, they have a playbook, they have a workout book, and this is the way it's set up. It's cookie cut. It's cookie cut, just like this at every college. And I'm really concerned with you got 125, 130 football players, right, per D1 school, counting walk-ons. You have 85 scholarship players. And half of the LSU team, we're just going to use them as an example, the out-of-state kids are home. They don't have a gym at their house, most of these kids. The gyms are closed. You can't go work out at the high schools because they don't want people at the high schools right now. You know, they're exhuming the schools or cleaning the schools, whatever you want to call it, Jace. So I'm really, really, really curious to see what college teams are going to just be so out of shape that it's going to affect the first game or two win-loss column. I mean, because by the time you hit June and July, these coaches expect these guys to be at a certain speed. I mean, you got some games in August if this goes as planned, right? If the world's back to normal and everything, which we pray and hope that it is. But it's just a point I want to bring up because most stories you hear is based on what's going on in sports right now, and it's really hard to find ideas to talk about, but this is one to really keep an eye on because, you might have a guy who was a starter that was going to come back. And what if this guy is so out of shape that he can't even run his 40-yard dash time, he can't even run his hundreds, he can't even get, in his stance and complete a play, right? Well, this somebody else might beat him out that came back into shape. Because it's hard enough going through spring keeping these guys in shape, right? It's going to be interesting to see how this whole landscape in college football works because head coaches and assistants, they can Skype with these players. They can get on the computer. They can call them on their cell phone, but you can't just, build a gym at somebody's house. I mean, it's like you're around your family only right now. So let's keep that in mind and let's follow that. That's going to be an interesting thing. And look, this is not to say also that a lot of kids, they have to get their grades done online. And will all these college football players be completing the proper classwork, daily without being in class, being pushed, right? I mean, are they going to go through this at home? I mean, this is a whole different thing. There's so many things to talk about with that.
We'll be right back on the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Changing our subject, I want to go ahead and talk about high schools. One high school I want to talk about is St. Louis. It's our high school talk of the week. St. Louis High School out of Lake Charles. Chad Laverne's the head coach. You might know the name. Chad was the head coach at Lake Arthur for 3 years, won the district title twice in 2011, 2012. Great coach. He's been in it for 26 years. He went to South Cameron High School, just a tidbit. Some of his players, actually, their dads played with him at South Cameron, which is no longer a high school, by the way. If they are a high school, they don't have football anymore.
Yeah, they're still a high school.
They just don't have football anymore. But St. Louis is a team, folks, in Division II. When they call Division II for the playoffs, it's a lot of 3A teams that play up to 4A.
Yeah, the private 3A, 4A teams. Yep.
They all combined. St. Louis, if they're going to make a jump to the state championship game, they're my sleeper team in the state overall. Like, they're that team that nobody's going to expect to go to state title game. And last year, they went to the quarterfinals, and they had a great year. They have everybody back. Now, I'm not going to get into the individual names. We're going to do that in our preview magazine in August, Louisiana Football Magazine. But when you return 10 starters, basically almost 11 starters on offense, you have an 1,800-yard rusher back, you got your quarterback back, your whole O-line back, you got everybody back. And it was a team that was only a game away from playing in the state title game in 2019. St. Louis is like a Jennings. Nobody thought Jennings would go last year. And Rusty Phelps, I'm really happy for him. All those years at Jennings, coming so close. 1 year he lost in the semis to West Louisiana. So St. Louis High School is a team to watch for that has, 22 starters back. And not the most talented team, not a bunch of D1 players, but just a great team. Now, they lost some coaches because he won, and when you win, you lose some assistants. Some of these guys get head jobs. Some of them move up. But Chad is doing a great job. Coach Laverne is doing an incredible job for St. Louis High School in Lake Charles. Another high school I want to talk about is in Baton Rouge, Parkview Baptist. Parkview has a really good young coach in Stephon LaFleurs. Stephon played college football at Louisville. High school football he played at Christian Life, which is no longer a school. It ended up turning into Church Academy at the end, and it's just a shame they're not around anymore. Michael Clayton played there at LSU. Ross Ricks, who went to UL, was a running back. Rufus Alexander, that made All-American at Oklahoma, played at Christian Life. They had so many great players for a small school. Well, Stephon LaFleurs went to Louisville, made All-American. He had a cup of coffee in the NFL, I think, with Carolina. He coached in Kentucky for a few years on the high school level. And last year I thought he did a great job for Parkview Baptist. With not a lot of depth. Parkview's they're no longer an 80 to 90-man team. More like 40. Might end up with 50 this coming season. But they have a quality 40 to 50 this coming season, and their quarterback, Roman Muley, is going to be a good player this year. He played his first year as a starter was in 19, and I thought he did great. He reminds me a lot of Stephon when he was at Christian Life. A dual-threat quarterback that can run a 4.5 in the 40. I'm not, again, going to get too deep into their players for this topic, but I just want to mention that Parkview, in Division II, like St. Louis, they're a dark horse to get to, I think, deep in the playoffs. They've got a few talented players. You know, Division II, outside of St. Thomas More, no one's really deep. If you just got good 6 to 8 great players and you can just keep your depth going on the O and D line, and you got enough guys. Now, Division II, a lot of guys are going both ways. A lot of programs are no longer 80 and 90-man rosters. I'm going to talk about another high school. And, Jace, I didn't want to really – I'm mentioning this school, University High. You know, Chad Mahaffey leaves the program and goes to Walker for 2019 after winning the state championship, another one for U High. One of the greatest teams I've ever seen, 2019, was a team that was overcoming the 18 team that was so loaded. You know, Michael Hollins, you know, you had 10 D1 players, 5 of them graduated after 18. You know, Jacqueline Roy was part of the 19 class to LSU from U High. But U High had a big drop-off on talent that Coach Andy Martin really couldn't control. I mean, when you lose 5 big-time D1 players, you know, Micah Tongue was another one, went to Georgia. Briston Constantine went to Clemson, a linebacker. Christian Harris went to Alabama. You know, John Gordon McKernan, you know, went to LSU as a walk-on, the quarterback. U High's back. Now, are they going to be the 18 team? No. But they have 82 kids in the program. They had 70 kids in the program in 17 and 18 when they were dominating. So just remember, they have 82 kids, and they have a lot of juniors and seniors coming back from a young team. I'm not saying U High is going to win the state championship in 220, but I'm just saying U High is now a big-time player again to maybe get to the Superdome. No one's ever going to be like the 218 team. That was one of the greatest teams I've ever seen outside of some West Monroe teams, some Evangel Christian teams, and some John Curtis teams I've seen over the years. But U High has a quarterback now, Christian Ard, and they also have a couple of other young quarterbacks coming up. And their skill talent's really strong again. But 82 players in the program, you know, they're going to be scary late in the season for 2020. And I want to go ahead and change subjects here. We're going to stay high school football. But there's a human interest story I want people to keep up with this year when the Pigskins finally kicked off. I don't know when the Pigskins going to, you know, the football is going to be kicked off. Hopefully we have jamborees. I hope. I mean, that's August. If we don't have jamborees in August, we're in trouble for September. But an interesting human interest story to keep in touch and to follow. I want to share with my listeners driving. Those that are driving to the grocery store, right? People that aren't getting out just to go get the means, or just if you're listening to this at home or on your cell phone. There's a quarterback that's going to be a senior next year in Bossier, Louisiana. Actually, it's Bossier High School. And his name is Coleman Beeson. And this will be his second year to start at quarterback for Bossier High School. He's a 4-sport athlete. He's a wrestler. He's a soccer guy. He's a baseball player and a football player. And what's very, very interesting about this kid, and I'm really, really, really pulling for him to have a great year, is that he lost his dad, who died at a young age, who was also the team's offensive coordinator, David Beeson, and also the wrestling head coach of the school at Bossier High School. David Beeson passed away before he could watch Coleman play football, before he could even watch him play his first game in football last year. David Beeson was an Air Force guy was 25 years in the Air Force, retired, was a big part of the coaching staff at Bossier High School. But I'm really pulling for this young man to have a phenomenal year. And I think it's just a great human interest story. This kid's been through a lot. He lost his dad before his junior year. He's a four-sport guy. His dad coached him in wrestling. He's a baseball prospect, really, and a football guy, too. He could be a football D3 quarterback, or he could be a baseball 1AA, maybe D1 player in baseball. But from talking to Michael Concilio, who's a great coach, he's the head coach of Bossier High School. He's been there for 14 years as the head coach. And he always has about 20 to 25 kids every year. Never a lot of depth. And Bossier High School is always competing and always having a great season. Even when they go 4-6, they find a way to get in the playoffs. And they play the same 11 kids on offense that they play on defense. Really have a lot of respect for Mike Concilio and what they do. But I'm really pulling for this kid, like I said, Coleman Beeson, the quarterback, that's going to be a senior, class of 2021 at Bossier High School. 6'2", 165 pounds. He's got a long, a frame to fill out to be about 200 one day. But really pulling for this young man. Been through a lot. Really pulling for Bossier High School this coming season. And they just lost 13 starters, which is like losing 40 starters for, West Monroe. The only difference is they don't have that West Monroe, 30 letterman back, so they're going to be rebuilding this coming year. Hopefully they can shock everybody and find a way to make the playoffs. Led by Coleman Beeson, the quarterback.
We'll be right back on the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Make sure to check out our website at lafootballmagazine.com for all the latest recruiting information statewide. This week, check out all of our recruiting interviews with all the latest prospects and coaches. Also, make sure to check out our website to stay up to date with our TV show each week. That website, again, is lafootballmagazine.com.
And, Jace, that gets us to our last topic, the NFL. We're going to let Jace LeJeune chime in, our producer. And let's talk about Emmanuel Sanders going from, wow, he tore up the Saints last year for San Francisco, right?
Yeah, he did.
And now he's a Saint.
Yeah. He was a great receiver for your Steelers and for the Broncos as well. And like Sean Payne and the Saints have been saying, you can kind of see that last year. They really needed a second wide receiver behind Michael Thomas, and now they picked one up. Maybe we thought that they would get one in the draft, but they might still get another one. But, they definitely got their second weapon, Emmanuel Sanders, through free agency. That's a big pickup for them.
Jace, what I never thought I would see in the NFL is players in their mid-30s getting big contracts. You saw Andrew Whitworth, who's almost 40.
Yeah, towards the end of his career.
Getting a contract you see a guy get in the first 5 picks of a draft. Now, I'm happy for Andrew Whitworth. Great guy.
He deserves it for sure.
Deserves it, but you don't see a lot of that. But now you're seeing a lot of that because a lot of these NFL teams, I don't know if it's the way the country's set up in the draft. They're not really sure with all the scouting with the country was shut down for a while. It still is. It's kind of like these teams are like, let's go get the dependable players. And I don't care if he's 33. Like Emmanuel Sanders is 33 years old.
And there's guys in their 40s. Look at Breeze and Brady.
I'm all about it, man. I'm almost 50 years old, but Emmanuel Sanders at 33 years of age, it's a lot of mileage. He's getting a contract of somebody that would be in their 20s, which you don't usually see. But they're so desperate for proven players. And I guess, if you don't think you can get this in the draft, that's why they call it free agency before the draft. So they're trying to say, okay, we're not going to get a slot guy like this in round 3 or 4. We need a guy with experience. And this guy blew up on us last year. Maybe we can get George Kittle too. No, I'm kidding. George Kittle won't leave San Francisco. But between Kittle and Sanders, that's who really tore up the Saints last year in the Dome. Moving on, Cam Newton We had mentioned I thought he was going to get released. He finally was released by Carolina. Wow, I don't know where he's going to end up. Again, this quarterback shuffle, it's just, Jameis Winston's no longer in Tampa Bay.
I mean, you kind of figured the writing was on the wall when they signed other quarterbacks. But, yeah, it was officially released after we did last week's podcast.
So it's starting to play out, though, Jace. You got the draft, and you got Burrow and Tua. And then I guess teams figure if we don't get Joe or Tua, then we need to go grab a quarterback that's got some experience. And then you have Washington picking up Kyle Allen from Carolina. Basically, that tells me that Dwayne Haskins has got to win the job. He's got to beat Kyle Allen out. Mm-hmm. And they're not really sure that he's ready to be the guy, that's what it's telling me.
Right.
So.
Or just kind of have that veteran guy on the side to help Haskins progress.
Yeah,
that
but
could be another option.
Dwayne's going into year 2. That's a long time in the league now. I mean, look at Allen in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's year 2 last year.
Yep.
Takes him to the playoffs. They don't wait on you anymore as a quarterback. You had mentioned Dallas. We talked about that off the air. Travis Frederick retired, the center. Not even 30 years old. Jerry Jones has got to be so upset every time he thinks he has the team put together, and he's trying to negotiate the contract for Dak right now, which I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think they put him on the franchise tag, but
we're talking probably over $100 million. But it's not easy finding a center. I mean, La'el Collins is still there, and they've got Smith there, Tyron Smith. A lot of good talent on that O-line, but this center, man, Travis Frederick, he was the glue. I mean, the Ravens had their center retire 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, it's hard to find a great center. Calls the plays, gets everybody lined up. It's going to be that's a blow to the Cowboys. You can't just draft a rookie center and say come in and, dominate. It's hard. That's a hard spot on the O-line.
Yeah, because you are the quarterback of that front. So you're the one making the calls. And you get the ball. You're the one that, besides the quarterback, you're the one that has the ball every single play. So, I mean, it's definitely a tall ask to order.
But to finish the NFL, we could go NFL for an hour, but I'm still curious to see where Tua will go. Tua, I know he had the workout. He showed that he wasn't hurt, but it wasn't in pads. Nobody was rushing him to sack him, right? Here's my take on it. I think Tua is a great kid. I think he's got a lot of talent. Every time LSU got on the field, I was fearful of this guy. It's like you couldn't stop him. And I know he had talent around him. But Tua's got a great instinct, great quick release, so confident, knows the game, has a lot of those great Hall of Fame qualities, but he can't stay healthy. And every quarterback that I've seen stay hurt in college, they stay hurt in the pros. And let me throw this name out from way back, Jace. I don't know if you can remember this guy or not. You were probably in high school when this happened, maybe junior high.
Okay.
Brody Kroll.
Yeah.
Was a quarterback at Alabama.
Right.
He was on some bad teams at Alabama.
Yeah, right. Those are the Shula days.
Shula days. But he was a good quarterback. But he stayed hurt. I mean, he'd go out 2-3 games, throw up 300-400 yards, bam, get ankle injury, shoulder injury, rib injury. He was one of them 200-pound guys that just was injury-prone. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs draft him in the second round.
Yep,
he never plays. He stays hurt. And I'm going to tell you can be hurt as a lineman. There's a lot of knee injuries with these O-linemen. But they can come back. They don't have to run the 40 and 4-5. Linebackers, same thing. Tight ends. But when you're the quarterback and you're the leader of the franchise, I don't know if I would draft him. If I was an owner, I would go. You might call me crazy. I'd go with another quarterback that was potentially a first, second round pick that's not injury prone in college.
I mean, you look at guys like Justin Herbert, guys like that are making a lot of noise. You can always go with them. I mean, they haven't been as injury prone. I mean, the upside with Tua is, probably the highest in the whole out of every quarterback, including Joe. But it's just a matter of being reliable and being healthy and being that guy every single week.
Let me throw this out to you, Jason. Our listeners might agree with me on this. You think his offensive line in Alabama is going to be better than some of the NFL teams that might draft him? They protected him very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get sacked a lot. He just stayed hurt.
And he also, the college teams, they knew, we just need to get a good shot on them. And then, what the NFL is going to do that same thing, probably even worse, because it's just so much more advanced in the NFL level than college. In college, they knew, okay, we hit him in the right place, we know what will happen.
But I don't think he was sacked 10 times in a season at Alabama.
He wasn't, but when he did get hit, he got hit. It was, and he's probably going to get hit even more in the
That's
NFL.
what I'm saying. NFL, you're going to get hit constantly. Where in Alabama, some games he didn't even get touched. Like Middle Tennessee State or Troy, even the Ole Misses of the world, Mississippi State, he didn't even get touched. Like, he would just, move from people, shuffle his feet, and throw it, and third quarter, he's out of the game, and they're playing, the backup quarterback. But LSU, even though they put heat on him, they didn't sack him a lot this year.
They did.
And the year before.
But what they did was really affect him in the first half of that game this year. They did hit him, and they did kind of made him feel a little bit.
No, LSU hit him more than most teams.
Right.
But it still wasn't like, hey, they had 6 sacks on him.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like 2 sacks and maybe 8 hits after the ball was thrown.
Yep. But either way, sack or not a sack, if he gets hit, he's still going to feel it. It's still going to, affect him.
And I wonder, I like David Carr. I like the Carr brothers. But the reason I don't think he's made it in Oakland is that he just doesn't seem like a guy that when you pressure him, he can hit the second read and make it happen in Oakland. And I know it frustrates Gruden.
Yeah, they call him dump off Derek Carr because he likes to just throw a bunch of dump off passes. He doesn't take a lot of shots downfield.
And his brother David was like that. They both played at Fresno State, both great college quarterbacks. But if you look at Derek and you go back, let's just rewind. When Derek was being drafted, it's like, oh, man, this guy runs a 4.5. He's 6'3". He's 220. You get too caught up into, what a guy can do at the combine and what he can do throwing the ball 75 yards. But let's face it, Derek Carr, I haven't seen many 65-yard passes or 50-yard passes where he's just threading it on the money.
He had that one MVP type season, then he got hurt before the playoffs, but that was probably the only year that he kind of really showed what he can do. But besides that year, he hasn't really shown that.
Now, Gruden picked up Marcus Mariota from the Titans, but would he do another pickup? Will he pick up one of these guys, Winston or Cam Newton? Would he do that? Because Mariota's he hasn't literally lived up to this billing either out of Oregon.
Yeah, that quarterback draft class, hasn't really lived up to the hype because Mariota and Winston, because they were the first 2 quarterbacks picked in that draft. And look at them now. One's a backup, but one doesn't even have a team yet.
And let's face it, this wasn't, 4 years ago? He comes out of Oregon. He's the best dual-threat quarterback we've ever seen, right, prior to Tua. 6'4", 230, runs a 4.5. Like the greatest prospect out of Hawaii prior to Tua. Like Mariota, he's like the dream draft pick, right? And nobody even talks about him last year. And he's beaten out by Tannehill, who came over from Miami, right? And, poor Miami, they just plug away and win 5 games a year now. And Tannehill's almost the MVP of the league if they can get to the Super Bowl last year. If they could, they were close. They had Kansas City. And Derrick Henry, look, I'd love to have Derrick Henry, and if I'm the quarterback on any team, that is a
whole lot easier.
Derrick Henry is a frightening human being in build. And at LSU, they couldn't stop him at Alabama. No one could.
No. And Nick Saban would get him the ball 40 times a game, and he would get better at each and every carry.
And a lot of people would say, oh, he won't make it because the other Alabama running backs didn't do well outside of Ingram.
Yeah, they were kind of worried that he wasn't quick enough hitting the hole, and, that would just really hurt him in the NFL. But he's proved that to be
I'll tell you what, for 240, 6'3", 245. He can go.
I mean, once he gets moving, he can get moving.
But he looked like he found his he got in better shape, got his twitch back. Looked like he got a little more, I don't know, a little more flexible. And his burst is back.
Yeah, it seemed like the last 2 years he's kind of really picked up.
Matured.
Yeah, matured.
I would love to see Fournette become what Henry did last year. You know, Leonard is in Jacksonville, which is a mess right now. I mean, Jacksonville 2-3 years ago, everybody's like, oh, my God, they're going to be great forever. And then all of a sudden, everybody's leaving. Calais Campbell, everybody's getting out. The DB, the corner, everybody's leaving the team that's a good young player. But I really want to see Leonard Fournette have a Hall of Fame career. I mean, personally, that he's from St. Aug and from New Orleans, LSU. But this coming year, I don't know. Can he do it in Jacksonville? Can he? I mean, I don't know. It's going to be.
Yeah, where everybody going, he's going to be the guy to rely on for them.
And I think he's just a great talent, and he's finally maturing. They say that he's, realizing, I'm 25. It's hard to believe he's still only 25 years old. He's still got another 5 great years. And what's amazing, Jace, last year he had, like 1,400 yards, all-purpose yards on offense. He had 1,400-something yards. And nobody even really realizes that. He didn't rush for just 600 yards. I mean, went over 1,000, had like 300 or 400 yards receiving.
His rookie year, was really good. You saw the potential.
Yeah, I mean, he's stat-wise, he's got like 3,500 yards rushing in 3 years. I mean, he's, it's just weird how the NFL is now. Fans forget, if you're not on a winning team, I guess they just don't keep up with you anymore. I mean, it's the way the NFL rolls, I guess.
Yep.
Mahomes is like the new guy, and the Chiefs are the new team. And 2 years ago, nobody really thought the Chiefs were more than an 8-8 team.
Right.
So, but look, I hope you enjoyed the show. We're keeping it short today, but it was very informative. We're glad to talk about our high school stuff, our teams. We'll do a little bit more of that. We'll pick some teams every week. The NFL is constantly information. We'll talk about the draft as it gets a little closer.
A couple weeks away.
Yeah, free agency is still the hot topic. And look, keep in mind, like I said, our first topic today, very concerned about the kids being in shape when they get back to campus all over the country for college football.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised whenever, football really comes. They always start off kind of slow, too, in August and everything. It's going to be 2 times, slower than that because there's not going to be any spring and they're going to lose a lot of time.
Can you imagine when these guys report, whenever that is, hopefully we can all go back to normal with our lives, hopefully soon. But can you imagine if any of these guys are like out in awful shape? The coaches are going to just be they're already stressed. But, it's your dad was a coach, my dad was a coach. I've been around football my whole life. It takes weeks or months to get linemen in shape and players.
Yeah.
So it's going to be I don't think I'd want to be at the building where they all show up at the Ponderosa when they all show up.
Those 2 days are going to be rough.
And how do you do suspend? I don't guess you can do anything. I mean, it's not their fault.
No.
You can't say, okay, you showed up 60 pounds overweight, so you got to run for 30 minutes after practice. You can't really, you got to be careful at how you do this.
Yeah.
It's like, Coach, I didn't have a weight room. I couldn't go to my school. I couldn't even go to my own high school back wherever you're from. You giving me this workout plan, but what am I doing? Push-ups inside my house?
Yeah, the strength and conditioning coach is going to be really making their money.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Like Tommy Moffitt, okay, we need these guys that take 5 months to get in shape. We need them in shape in 6 weeks.
Yep.
Good luck. You don't get any sleep now, and you're earning that. You're earning that every dollar now. It's going to be. This is changing the whole, future of sports. Like if this happens, it can happen again. There's no preparement for it. There's no plan.
There's the last time something of this magnitude happened was 1918 or something like that. So we can't really go off of that and say, hey, this is the plan to prevent this.
Now, the NFL guys, they work out on their own anyway. They're older guys. They're making money. They're told they have to. They get cut.
Right.
But they are even having trouble. There's no gyms. But they're picking maybe they have these 3-acre yards. They have money.
Oh yeah, they got their own.
They got their own
gyms,
stuff.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Matthew Stafford, before we end the show, you might have read about it. He was told to leave his high school. He jumped the fence. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay.
Back in Texas, Highland Park.
Right.
He's from Dallas.
Yep.
He actually jumped a fence and like built this like little ramp thing where he could jump across.
Okay.
And they had to kick him out. Which is tough on the school. You got this famous alumnus, right, for the Detroit Lions from Highland Park High School in Dallas, and you're telling him, we don't care who you are, you got to get out of here.
Wow.
And that was, I don't know, last week. So, you know, he's probably thinking, hey, I can get away with it. It's my old high school. I'll just jump the fence. And
I mean, I'm Matthew Stafford, after all, you know.
But, you know, welcome to this tough reality, man. Look, prayers to everyone, by the way, with all their families and getting through all this. You know, there are people that have family members that are sick right now. We pray for them to get better and to be healed. And it's a tough time. Stay strong, and we can talk about sports. That's what's great about America. Even though there's no sports going on, this podcast was the greatest invention ever, to be able to talk about sports and talk about our state of Louisiana. And I hope you enjoyed it. Everybody stay safe and stay off the roads, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.